Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I'm back with a prediction video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what happens to the Hound in every single episode in Game of Thrones Season 7. But without wasting any time, let's get right into it. I believe the first time we're going to see the Hound is in Episode 2. And in this episode, we're going to get an introduction scene between Beric Dondarrion, Thoros of Myr, and the Hound and the rest of the Brotherhood without banners. And while they're traveling, the Hound is going to have a conversation with them, pretty much wondering what they're doing and why they're going north. And Beric tells the Hound that north is where the true threat lies, and they must play their part in the long night. And Thoros of Myr brings up that he's been seeing a lot of visions in the flame. He's been seeing a battle at the wall with Castle Black and Black Sands, and an overwhelming amount of dead. And Beric says it's unfortunate because people fight amongst each other without seeing the true threat that lies ahead. And the Hound tells him that they won't stop, because people won't stop fighting and getting what they want because of a fairy tale or a story. And the Hound thinks that the Long Night and the Night King is a bunch of bullshit. But Thoros of Myr dismisses him and says that the Lord of Light has already been working its magic, because Jon Snow is now the King of the North. And the reason why the Lord of Light has answered is because it put a former Lord Commander of the Night's Watch in the seat of ruling the North. And that is so powerful because Jon Snow has witnessed this threat, and therefore he could band together with them, the Brotherhood without banners, and stop the Night King and the Long Night. So Beric points out that this is an alliance in the making, and they will do whatever it takes to serve the Lord of Light in defeating the Night King, and that involves an alliance with Jon Snow. So Beric also tells him that because of this, he sent a letter to Winterfell, declaring that he wants an alliance with Jon Snow. He tells them that they have to ride fast to Moat Cailin, because that is where he told Jon Snow that they would be, awaiting his letter in response. Beric Dondarrion thinks that they should wait at Moat Cailin for further orders. And that takes us to our second scene where they reunite with Melisandre. They're setting up camp, setting up a fire for the night, and she runs into their camp. And Beric invites her to join them, and they end up catching up on what's happened. And in this scene, Arya Stark is actually going to be in the background eavesdropping on their conversation. And they're going to be talking about purpose and what's been going on. And in this conversation, Beric Dondarrion is going to mention Gendry. He's going to ask what she did with the boy and if it ended up working out. Did he properly serve the Lord of Light? And Melisandre goes on and how she thought she knew what was right. She thought she knew what to do in supporting Stannis, but he ended up dying, and Gendry ended up escaping to King's Landing. But Melisandre does say the Lord of Light has answered her. And she mentions to all of them and how she resurrected Jon Snow, Ned Stark's bastard son. And she tells them that she believes that Jon Snow is integral in the Long Night, and he could possibly be the prophesied savior Azor Ahai. But then she does tell them that he kicked her out because she did kill Shireen, Stannis Baratheon's daughter, and she rides for Dragonstone to aid Daenerys. So Beric Dondarrion assures her that they will watch over Jon Snow, and Melisandre is thankful and she wants to go to Daenerys and try and get an alliance between her and Jon Snow. But then that takes us to the next episode, and in this episode, the Brotherhood without banners arrive at Moat Cailin, and it's deserted. There's nobody in there at all, and they await the letter from Jon Snow. We see them set up camp, and they actually receive a letter from Sansa Stark. And she tells them that Jon has gone south to Dragonstone to treaty with Daenerys to prepare for the Long Night. And she ends up accepting their alliance and assures them that they always have a home at Winterfell. But she tells them that she does want to secure all of the North before the Long Night comes. So she asks them to secure the Dreadfort, to align the North before the Long Night comes. She also says that she will be sending some forces to the Dreadfort to help take it over, as well as a team to help aid Aelys Karstark return back to Karhold to lead her people. So then the Hound, Beric, and Thoros talk about this letter. And the overall consensus is that they do need to play their part to rally all of the North together. So they plan to leave for the Dreadfort tomorrow. But the next time we see the Brotherhood is in episode 5. And we see the group arrive at the Dreadfort. And when they arrive, they are greeted by Tormund. And he takes them in for food and drink. And we see Tormund kind of connect with the Hound, Beric Dondarrion, and Thoros of Myr. Tormund tells him his story about how he is a wildling and he made an alliance and a friendship with Jon Snow. And he tells him that they took over the Dreadfort a couple of days ago from the remaining Boltons. And he tells him that it was really important to secure this castle because his people need a place to stay before the Long Night comes. But then while Tormund's talking, Brienne and Podrick walk into the room. But then the Hound sees her and he ends up freaking out. I think we're going to get a huge blowout screaming fight between Brienne and the Hound. Because the last time they saw each other, Brienne beat the piss out of the Hound and pretty much left him to die and separated him from Arya. And I think the Hound is going to yell at her for throwing him off the mountain and abandoning Arya. And the Hound is going to ask if he knows where she is because Brienne screwed her. And the Hound tells her that Arya is probably dead because of her stupidity. And Brienne is going to continuously fight back and defend herself, but the Hound is going to be so persistent that he was protecting her and that no harm would have come to her as long as she was with him. And I believe this is going to be the first time we're going to see the Hound show emotion towards Arya. We're going to see that he's actually upset that he lost her and that Brienne ruined that for him. And he's genuinely concerned that she's dead now because of her attacking them. But then that scene will end, and in another scene, we will see them getting a raven from Sansa Stark, telling them that Jon is going to Eastwatch by the Sea to capture a White, and that he needs their help. And the letter also writes that she wants Brienne to escort Aelys Karstark back to Karhold, and then return to Winterfell. So we get a scene of Tormund, Thoros of Myr, Beric Dondarrion, and the Hound getting ready to ride for the Bay of Seals, and then to sail to Eastwatch by the Sea. And Brienne tells them that she is leaving for Karhold tomorrow, and she ends up giving the Hound her Valyrian steel sword that she got from Jaime, Oathkeeper. And she tells him that she hopes that it guards his back over the wall with the White Walkers, as kind of an apology. And the Hound pretty much tells her to piss off and take orders from her little bird. And by little bird, he means Sansa. So we see the group leave for Eastwatch. But then the show will skip all of their travel times, and in episode 6, we will see the group arrive at Eastwatch by the Sea. And it's going to tie into Thoros of Myr's vision, because they're going to be standing on black sands. So we will see the Hound and the Brotherhood travel through Eastwatch and open the gate to see the other side of the wall. And they will end up seeing a silhouette on a horse in the distance, and he eventually goes away in the distance, so the group decide to follow it. And the silhouette ends up taking them to an ice cave. And when they get in the ice cave, they see the man standing there, and he pulls away his scarf to reveal that he is Benjen Stark. And he introduces himself to the group. And the Hound says that he looks worse than Beric. And the group end up talking to Benjen about their mission to capture a White, and that they're waiting for Jon to arrive. And Benjen tells them to stay here and await his return because he's going to scout out the north to try and find the most efficient way to capture a White. And then in another scene, we'll see Jon arrive at the cave with Gendry, Jorah, and some Stark soldiers. And we see them all interact and meet. And we're going to get a lot of fun conversation between the group to really build that chemistry between the characters. And we're going to see Benjen finally arrive, and he is going to reunite with Jon. And Benjen is going to tell them that there's minimal activity around the mountain range. And he tells them that there's a terrain that's in between mountains that's really narrow, and there's caves for cover. And this will be opportune because if they get attacked by a horde, they're kind of funneled in to the narrow passageways, which is to their benefit. They also plan to have Jon and the Hound lead, because they're the two with Valyrian steel swords. So then the group ends up leaving the cave. So Benjen ends up taking them to a cave, and on the other side of that cave, it brings them into the mountain range. But on their way in, they come across a White Walker, and Jon ends up taking him down in the skirmish, and the group goes through the cave. But when they get out of that cave, they're going to arrive in a very narrow way between two mountains. And on their walk, they're going to find a spiral symbol, like we've seen in past seasons. And this spiral symbol is made of dead bodies, but the only difference is the center is hollow, and in that center is a dead white wolf. And Benjen gets a panic and says that they must leave. And right after he says that, bodies start coming to life. And we see the wolf awaken and start howling. And that ends up alerting all of the Whites close by. So then the group end up running. And Benjen is riding ahead on his horse, thinning out the horde with his fireball thing. And they arrive at a narrow cavern that leads straight to an open lake. But a polar bear blocks their way. So Benjen knocks him out of the way with his fireball and he gets knocked against the wall. But the polar bear finally comes to and ends up grabbing Thoros of Myr. And this ends up killing him. So Thoros of Myr ends up holding back the horde and the bear from running after the Hound, Jon, and the rest of the group. So they end up getting some distance and they find in the center of the lake there's a giant rock formation. So the group climbs it as fast as they can and they get in a circle to see all angles. So the group is standing on the rock and they're taking out Whites as they come, and Benjen is thinning them out on his horse from a distance. And just before they're getting totally overwhelmed by Whites, Daenerys drops in with her dragons. We're going to see Drogon and Viserion take out all of the Whites surrounding them, and Rhaegal is going to fly straight for Jon and defend the group standing on the rock formation. But then the dragons are all eventually going to surround the group on the rock, and they're going to be defending them. And Dany tells them to jump on her dragons so she can get them out of there. And Jon refuses to board until everyone is on a dragon. So we see Gendry and Tormund jump on Rhaegal. And while a stray White comes and attacks Jon, the Hound and Jorah wrestle it down, and they end up grabbing it and feeding it to Gendry and Tormund on Rhaegal, so they have a White. So then Jon gets up and tells the Hound and Jorah to jump on Drogon. So Jon ends up getting up and sending Rhaegal away to finish the mission and capturing the White. And the Hound and Jorah end up jumping onto Drogon, and Jon jumps on Viserion. But right after that, Viserion gets overcome by Whites. And while Viserion collapses, Beric is able to jump back on the rock platform, but Jon falls with Viserion. And Jon is kind of hiding under Viserion, unable to get onto Drogon. So it is here when Benjen comes in and tries to rescue Jon. But in the meantime, Beric Dondarrion finally makes it on Drogon, and Drogon's getting attacked, so Daenerys has to leave. So she flies away with Beric, the Hound, and Jorah. And on their way flying back, they see Rhaegal flying the opposite direction, straight for Jon. And there's nothing Daenerys can do, so she just continues to fly back to Eastwatch. But then when the group gets dropped off, to their surprise, they see Rhaegal come back with Jon. And they end up asking if Jon is okay, and he tells them that Viserion is dead and he was resurrected by the Night King. And Jon insists that now they must take this white and go to King's Landing and form an alliance with the Lannisters before it's too late. And finally, we will see the Hound arrive at the Dragon Pit in King's Landing with the rest of the group. And this scene is going to take a big chunk out of the last episode. And we're going to see a lot of interesting interactions between characters that hate each other and love each other. And with the Hound, this interaction is going to be really focused around Cersei and his brother. The Hound does hate his brother, but at the same time we will see that he's a bit annoyed and pissed off that Cersei has full control over him and the Mountain is pretty much a slave to Cersei. So I think we'll see a scene between them. And I also think we'll see the Hound try and kill this white in front of everybody, but it ends up not working, so Cersei orders the Mountain to do it to kind of spark that brother rivalry. But no matter what both Cleganes can do, the white is still moving. So Jon ends up burning it to show that and Dragonglass is the only way to truly kill it. But after they treaty with Cersei, Jon and Daenerys end up heading north to get back to Winterfell, and the Hound and the rest of his team follow her. So the last time we will leave off with the Hound, he is on a boat headed north to Winterfell to potentially see Arya Stark again. But that is it, everybody, for my predictions for the Hound. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But until then, I'll see you guys later.